L&D is not often commercially minded, and bringing something externally requires that commercial approach. As you were discussing this becoming an external thing, how did the organization think about equipping either the L&D leadership or this product with the right commercial strategy?
We're still figuring out some of those pieces, also realizing that strategically, it's got to make sense, right? We can't hire all of the facilitators we need to do all of these things and then have it fall flat. It's really trying to think of what our growth in that area looks like. And again, it didn't happen overnight. This is slowly growing, slowly evolving. I'm still continuing to see things grow and evolve. This was the first year that I had to actually consider saying no to a client because of capacity. It, one, shows the demand for it, but also we almost had to say no. So what does that mean for 2026?
Jenn, it's really good to have you on the show today. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you through the Seattle Exchange Network, and ever since then, we've had a number of great conversations. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And what really caught my interest, the reason why I really wanted to invite you onto the show, is this really cool journey you've had in taking the L&D function within CBRE and making it also a revenue generating arm, which is a really cool journey that I think a lot of different L&D functions can learn from. So if you're ready, let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, but maybe just to start, can you describe a little bit what is the revenue generating product you've launched at the firm?
Yes. So we actually have a couple different programs, but they're all related in customer experience. So I work in property management at CBRE, and we deal a lot with our property management arm. We've created these programs that are basically centralized in customer experience. So what actually ended up happening was we wanted to shift our business into more of a customer-centric, customer mindset way of working, right? Property management, we wanted people to come back into the offices. So we focused a lot on customer experience and how to get our employees leveled up in customer experience. Then we created an internal program that we launched. All of our property management employees within the US have gone through this program. And then people started asking, what's next? So what do we do? Like, we've taken our program, but how do we continue to elevate it? In property management, we are working with a bunch of different vendors. So when you think about a property and you think about all the people that work at a property, you've got your property managers, you got your security guards, you've got janitorial. There's a whole group of people that may not be internal employees. But if you're a tenant walking through that building, you just see these are the employees of the building. So we wanted to create a program that allowed all of those people to come together and set a baseline in customer experience. That's really what we did. And it's something that we've talked about for a long time. We just couldn't figure out the right way to launch something like that. And then as we made our focus in customer experience, the light bulb kind of went on, and it was like, oh, this is what the rest of the people at the property need to know. We need to know what that standard level of service looks like. That's where we started. So the program that we actually have, our bigger program, is called Thrive as One. And that is for internal employees as well as external employees to go through a 3-hour workshop all together. So we set the baseline of what experience should look like at the property.
That's so cool. It's a very natural evolution too, where you build something, kind of a center of excellence in your organization. Yeah. And that naturally leads to, creating more impact for the business. I'm curious, when you were starting, was there a conversation about the market potential of this and deciding, should we do this, should we not do this? I'm curious, what conversation happened? And then how did you
there was a lot. That was a great question, because it wasn't something where we're like, oh, we're just going to do this. It was a little bit of that, but it was tweaking, fine tuning. As I was prepping for this discussion, I started thinking, how did this come to be? And it is a lot of the innovation part of it, right? Is having the leadership and the room to be innovative and say, hey, this is something different. Let's try it. To also the other side of strategically doing it. The very first version that we had when we were trying this out was a very different version from what we have today, because it's evolving based off of feedback and all of those things. But I'm lucky enough to have leadership that are innovative and know that this is an area where we can expand into, how to help our clients and how are we solutioning with our clients better. Not just, yes, revenue generating is great and fun, but how are we helping the overall impact? So that was a lot of the conversation of how do we move that customer experience arm forward, because that was really important for us at the time and still today.
Yeah. But I would say, well, I'd be curious actually what you
Yeah.
think. There must be an implicit level of trust in the L&D team to be external facing and delivering value, right? I think there are certain L&D teams that I meet where they're not quite having the executive relationship with the business partners and they're not really seen as, partners to bring along. In this case, they're like tapping you, wanting you to expand. So I'm curious to hear, how did that kind of relationship come about, and how did working on this also evolve your relationship with other business leaders?
I love this question because it's not something that I think about naturally. It's like, yeah, you just do it, right? But that's not the case. Like I mentioned, it was slow growing. It wasn't something where it was like, oh, we need all of these things. Over time, especially with the launch of our internal CX program, that also helped with the reputation that we had in the market. Was we were already meeting with every single employee, every single leader in all of the markets across the US. And the way that we even launched that initial program was very strategic in gaining trust of those leadership individuals, because we knew that we were headed for this uphill battle of requiring another training. And what is that going to do with employees that are already busy? The employee base that we were looking at also included engineers, which trying to teach engineers customer experience and why they need it was also a challenge in itself. But when we launched our internal program, we went to each market individually, not physically through Zoom. We had the conversations with each of the leaders in each of the markets, where I was there and a couple of my direct reports were there. And we said, we are the team to help you launch this in your market. And it was a slow rollout. I think the entire rollout ended up being a year and a half long from when we first started, but we knew we needed to build the trust. So we're having the conversations with the leaders of each market. What are their concerns? What can we help with? Here is the plan that we have already created. Here are communication plans that you can just send out to your market. We will do all the legwork in terms of we're going market to market. So we have that outline of what to do, but also we want to make sure we're doing it your way and in the time frame. And I think those initial conversations for that internal program really affected how we're launching in this new client-facing program. Because you're right, it is being tapped on the shoulder and saying, hey, this building could use some customer experience training. What do you have?
It sounds like through the initial internal work, you really built the credibility, demonstrated reliability, and like earned the right to have these conversations in a very natural way. Whereas if you like jump straight into, hey, like they would have been a lot more skeptical. Because also a lot of times organizations are a little cagey about exposing their client to someone else because they see risks around that, and so
Absolutely.
you need to have trust that their client will be very satisfied working with you. So that trust needs to be built.
And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of back and forth, especially in the launch of that internal program. We got the pushback, but we also made sure that we were going to provide everything we could to help that market move forward.
Yeah. That makes sense. The question that I actually have is, as an L&D leader, you understand the product, what delivers a great learning experience. Now, one of the things that I'll be curious is L&D is not often commercially minded, and bringing something externally requires that commercial approach.
Yeah.
And so as you were discussing this becoming an external thing, how did the organization think about equipping either the L&D leadership or this product with the right commercial strategy?
I honestly think we're still in the midst of all of that.
You're figuring that out.
Yeah, we're still figuring out some of those pieces, but also realizing that strategically it's got to make sense, right? We can't hire all of the facilitators we need to do all of these things and then have it fall flat. It's really trying to think of what our growth in that area looks like. And again, it didn't happen overnight. This is slowly growing, slowly evolving. I'm still continuing to see things grow and evolve. This year was actually the first year. So we've been facilitating these courses since 2022. We're in 2025. This was the first year that I had to actually consider saying no to a client because of capacity, and it one shows the demand for it because we're obviously growing in revenue and demand, but also now my brain's like, okay, well, we've hit the point where we almost had to say no. So what does that mean for 2026? Right. And also a lot of what we're doing right now is just natural conversation around customer experience. We're not marketing really, where everything is word of mouth right now. And yes, we are thinking of that market strategy, but that's after we figure out how to grow the team. Right. So
create a foundation for kind of scale.
Right. To make sure we can handle growth that happens through marketing. But we just want to make sure we also have a really strong product that people want to pay for. I think that's the other thing too, is we spend a lot of time thinking about programs that we would want to pay for, not just another thing that is out there in the market, but what is the thing that we want to pay for?
Yeah. Would you say the consideration for going external has raised the bar? Clients need to be satisfied and they're taking their money, like wallet out to buy this. I'm curious if it's impacted how you assess whether something's good enough.
Yes, absolutely. Because now we're thinking about it in that exact same framework of, would you pay for this? As an L&D leader, if I'm vetting content, would I pay for this? Is it going to make a big enough impact for me? I also think we started off very competitive in our pricing, in how we're pushing it out to it. Everything has just been very competitive, but I have a really great team that prides themselves in the work that they're doing. And I think that's also been really helpful because it's like, I don't have to explain why we have to put our hearts and souls into this, right? It's already knowing, like they just get it. There's that piece, but also the realization of if we're doing this for external employees, we sure need to do this for our internal employees too. Just because it's not revenue generating doesn't mean we're not loyal to our employees internally. That's where the thought started of making sure that our content was the highest quality we can make it, with also realizing our scale, but then also that trickling into, now let's compare it to the internal work that we're doing and make sure that's on par also.
Yeah, this totally resonates with me. I think when you have a paying customer or client, it is one of the most motivating factors for a team to strive for excellence. I think it's just very natural that that team now orients itself to like a higher bar. And the fact that that now translates across the entire organization, that totally resonates. I'm curious, like today, how do you get pulled into an account? And are you the salesperson? Like who? Can you just walk me through like how that works?
So yes, but also we have a sales team. They're a great sales team. They are selling a whole bunch of things. That's not just L&D. So when it comes to the discussion around what actually all goes into it, what we can and what we can't do, we get pulled into all of those conversations. So we are selling this product. A lot of times, though, it's referrals from people who have been through our classes. So they'll reach out to the facilitator, they'll reach out to me, and they'll just want to know what's going on. Then we loop in our salespeople after the fact. But all of the contracting, it's separate contracts from what our clients are already contracted with. So we work with them to have them agree to and sign and all of the paperwork stuff. We do the invoicing. Basically, we open it up very easily with conversations like this, where we just want to know what they're trying to achieve to make sure that our programs are the right programs for them. Because I'm not going to sell them something that's not right for them. That just wouldn't be good business. And I don't think we would be in the right spot or in the spot that we're in now if we were selling things that just didn't apply or wasn't what they were looking for. So we just try to make sure that it is very timely, that they understand that we also have some standards with the way that we're facilitating our programs too. too. The ones that we do sell, they're all in person. So we send a facilitator out to the actual property. She'll walk through the property, make sure that all of the information is relevant in the training, or we'll make small tweaks to make sure it is relevant. In that process, we just have to, one, let them know that we're very mindful about it. We've seen what works and we've seen what doesn't work. It's also gaining the trust in the client of, like, hey, this is what works and this is what doesn't work. And it didn't work because of these reasons, right? Not just to say, trust us, it's trust us with some data. For example, we've done an instance where the client wanted it virtual. You would assume like, yes, easily translate into a virtual session. But when you really think about a 3-hour in-person workshop on Zoom, nobody wants to sit in front of their computer for 3 hours. It's not as engaging. You just don't have the same feel as you would in person. So we have to explain all of those nuances to also just get them to understand, if you're paying for this program, we want it to be successful.
Right. Yeah, you understand the core tenets of the sort of the product specifications, and you don't, like, the clients will push you to
always, and they should.
Yeah, and sometimes it actually helps really innovate the product.
Right.
And sometimes they have a really hard constraint, but other times they are also looking for your guidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that also kind of ties really well to just typically, how there's a lot of conversations about L&D having to be a trusted advisor. And a big part of that is being able to push back and challenge the perspective of the client, not just don't do everything that they ask you just because they asked you, sort of thing.
Right. That's a hot topic in the CLO conference that we went to. That was a lot of what we talked about. I think a lot of times when we think about doing things, launching things, and just the state of business and corporations and things like that, everything needs to be immediate, right? But not everything is immediate. You can't gain trust overnight. You have to build it, and you have to give people an opportunity to trust you. That happens over time.
That makes a lot of sense. As you start to navigate these conversations and really make this external facing product, what's the most surprising thing you've learned?
Oh, that's a really good question. A couple things. So the first one is the market for it is right in front of you. We didn't force this product out into the market. It was sitting there in front of us. It was a need that was in the market. It was something that we were already tied to and aligned to doing. It had this natural progression into it. We started with that internal program, and then just naturally it was like, oh, that's the need. When you think about revenue generating, or how do we make a program revenue generating, not to force that, right? Because if it doesn't fit,
you need demand to be out there.
Yeah.
It's not like you can force people to want it, sort of thing.
Exactly. I'm going to slightly contradict myself, because you also need a level of the innovation, right? You need to be able to go out there and do something that somebody hasn't done before and see if that works. It's a careful balance of strategy and innovation that need to work together and go hand in hand. But realizing in that innovation, it's not just going out there and putting this out in the way that you think and you believe works, right? It's also, what's the feedback that we're getting? How is this program evolving? Making sure that it makes sense for future strategy, not just trying to put something out there to put something out there. I've already said this a number of times, but I cannot stress the growth of this program from where we were in the beginning and just trying it because the need was there, and then constantly evolving and evolving and evolving to the place that we are now.
Yeah, you are essentially building a star within the company. That insight resonates with just building a company. Also, you have to actually really strike the right balance of setting a vision, because you're creating something out of nothing. And so you do have to have a vision, and you need to bring it to life. There's a balance of doing that and also not assuming the need exists, or assuming people should already be looking for your product ideally, and then you fill the need with something innovative, right?
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because that's showing the readiness, right? When you think about like change management and what like the different phases, you have to make sure that your people are ready, or your clients are ready, or that your audience is ready, right? Because if they're not in that place, it's not going to be successful.
One question that I had is, this is just like additional work for you, right? So can you explain how do you handle, it's a lot of work. It could actually be a lot of work often. It could be like a full-time job if you were going at full speed at it. I know you've sort of managed the speed and so on. Can you help me understand how did your role actually evolve when you already had a full internal L&D leadership job? How did the team evolve too?
Really good question. I think I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like, cuz to
Yeah.
your point, yes, it is extra, but it's just somewhere that we also believe will continue to grow. From 2024 to 2025, we had a ridiculous like 246% growth in revenue from 2024 to 2025. And in 2024, if you had asked me about this, it was just kind of on the back burner. We could do it when we can do it. If we had met a year ago, that would be the conversation. But again, just realizing the traction that's happening, and it's like, oh, okay, we're getting a lot of requests for that. Oh, it's continuing. And then also knowing when to say no. Saying no in L&D is just hard enough as it is.
Especially clients, like paying clients, like it becomes
Yes.
extra hard for sure.
Yes, but I know burnout is real, and it's more of just knowing what our limits were. And I think that's something that we always just made sure to keep a pulse on, was knowing where our priorities were. We knew that our priority in 2024, our priorities are internal facing employees, right? Or our internal employees. In 2025, yes, still so, but then we're opening doors towards those client facing training programs, or opening more doors towards it. So I think it's really just, now we know that this is coming. The growth and the numbers are showing that it's coming and there's a need in the market, and we're still being asked. And now everything at this point of the year, it's October, but we're pushing everything towards next year already and just trying to manage it slowly.
Seems like it's about like really thoughtful capacity management,
Yeah.
expectation setting, and things like that. And you probably are now thinking also a lot about what does it mean to scale this product? Like, how do you need to evolve your product in order to do it? Some of them might be enabling with tech, other might be switching how you actually run it, and things like that.
Yeah. And that's actually the big conversation for the remainder of this year, is what does scaling look like? And does scaling look like what we thought it was going to look like, or is scaling it different?
Different. Yeah. I'm curious if working on this has materially changed your interaction with other business leaders in the organization and how L&D is viewed.
I think so. Most L&D leaders will know we are usually spending all of the money. We are a cost center. That's what L&D is. If we want good L&D and good results from it, spend the money, right? We know that. That makes the biggest impact. But now we can also say we're bringing some money in. So there's a little bit more trust. Like, to your point, putting L&D folks in front of our clients, that's already showing some trust. I do think that there's a different perception that L&D now has, because we're in front of clients. We're solving the client's issues, right? They're coming to us with a specific ask, and we say, we have a program for that. There's still a long way to go. It's not like we've made it. There's still more trust building, and also shifting that inward, because we're not just trying to get our leaders to buy into what we do. We also have to continuously get our learners to buy in to what we're doing. And that, I think, is a much bigger hill for us, because learning is sometimes just on top of our jobs and it's just another thing to do, right? But how do we get our learners to trust us, so then that reputation begins to grow even more? And it's remembering that piece too.
Do you have a particular way of measuring the level of engagement and impact on the learners in a way that you also then, communicate back to your leaders?
We talk to them a lot. I know that's not necessarily the best use of time. Well, arguably.
It's intense, it's high touch. It's probably a good use of time, but it's just very high touch.
Yes,
You
it
gotta
is
be-
very high touch. What I meant is it's time consuming, right?
Yes.
It takes a lot of time to have these conversations, to reach out to the people, to have the people willing to talk to us, whether that's anonymously so they can tell us their feelings, or face to face so we can start on this like problem solving mindset of like, okay, great, that didn't work for you. Why? And just really understand the experience experience, going back to experience, the experience that people are having in our sessions. So yes, we would love to get all the data and the numbers and things like that, but there is something in just having conversations with the people that I think has helped evolve and fuel what my team does. We're also not, when you think about Kirkpatrick scales and things like that, we're not very high up on that list. And I don't think a lot of L&D teams are super high up that list, but some are. I know my learners, we're not quite there yet, but having the conversations with them helps me get the information that I need.
No, for sure. When it comes to learning, if what you're teaching is just like pure information, it's easier to, measure
Yeah.
recall. It's a lot harder to measure changes in skills or mindsets that are more foundational. You also don't want to put like false quantitative metric. A quantitative metric is not helpful if it's actually not getting to the right thing.
Right, exactly. And we're really trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, what do our learners like, what do our learners not like, and they're more willing to tell us in feedback than a number.
Right. And then quantitative stuff you can build on top once you feel like your product is in a good place. I'd be curious, you're on this journey and you're starting to see more and more demand. There's a lot of positive feedback around it. For L&D professionals who are interested in this journey also, any pieces of advice you would offer?
I think it goes back to those characteristics, right? One, think about the innovation, think about where something could go, but also remember to be strategic about it and not force it. Yeah, revenue generating would be great if all L&D teams could do it. We'd get more money. It'd be a nice, happy world, right? But doing it right, I think, is the more important thing when we're talking about revenue generating, because if you're going to do it wrong and you're going to jump the gun or not think about it strategically or not be innovative, then you're going to hurt yourself a lot more. It's probably more damaging to your brand than it is helpful. So if you're going to do it, just make sure that you are being thoughtful. It is something that your learners need and want. Yes, we talk about leadership and what business strategies and all of that, but at the end of the day, it's your learners that are in front of you, that are giving you the feedback, that are giving leadership feedback. So making sure that you're also keeping them in mind as you're building out these programs.
Any mistakes you would say, hey, look out for these? These are things that you've learned through your experience.
I think it's being able to know when to say no, especially because I'm the type of person that wants to hear people out. I know that I don't know everything, right? So I want to hear what people have to say. I want to hear the arguments against what I'm already thinking, right? I want to be challenged. Just knowing when to say, nope, this is costing us too much in other areas, not necessarily financially. Going back to the wellness piece, like my team's not in a place to be able to handle all of these things, and knowing when to pull back a little bit, or knowing when to say, this program works really well in this way. And yes, I know you're a client, but I also need you to have a little bit of trust in me that this is going to be the most successful way that this is launched. I understand what you're looking to do, and I'm going to help you get there. But there are some things that are just non-negotiables in terms of how you run a particular program.
And one last thing maybe is any tips on getting the right organizational buy-in to doing this? Maybe that also starting from how should you know whether this is even the right path that you should explore for your L&D team? And then how do you get the buy-in?
That's such a good one. So I think I was a little bit lucky in this area because it was something that was like talked about, right? We should have a training for this. Yeah, we should have a training for this, but it just never materialized until one day it was like, we're going to try and make this happen. It's like the need is there. We're going to try and make that happen. For me, I got a little bit lucky because there was already half buy-in. Our leadership knew that this was something, this was a gap. And then it was like, we're going to try this. But by the time that had happened, there was already a lot of trust in our department, but also showing the thoughtfulness and the strategy behind what it could be. This is what we're trying to do. This is the gap that we're going to fill. Putting that plan together, putting a business plan together around, here's what we're doing, here's the plan, we've thought through it, we know when to pivot, and making sure you have all of those pieces, you've done the research, trust me on this one, and it'll give you a little bit room to be more innovative with trying something out. But I can't stress the trust and making sure you keep that trust and have trust in your brand, not jumping the gun to just go out and do it. Like, be thoughtful, be strategic, take your time with it. And when you do that, then you'll have better results.
Yeah, it really feels like, from what you're sharing, it all starts with a very trusted relationship with the business, which surfaces opportunities and gaps. And you get to have that conversation with the business leaders too, who are like there with the clients.
Yeah.
And then they see you as a potential partner to shape something new to the market. And so you're not like pushing your agenda, but you are actually almost, you already have a champion with you to shape this together.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And all of that started before we even got to revenue generating. That started with those internal programs of just listening to people and listening to the gripes they had and the experiences, good, bad, ugly, with L&D in the past, and just hearing them and giving them the space to vent about it or correct their thoughts on it. So I think just you have to have a little bit of thick skin, because when people have not nice things to say, they'll tell you, but taking that in more as feedback or just trying to say, well, thank you for that, but this is how we're trying to help you. And if that's not helpful for you, let's come to this middle ground.
Jenn, this was really awesome. It was really cool to just hear how you're thinking about it going forward. And I really hope that folks listening can get some really cool nuggets out of it and explore this direction if it's relevant for their organization, because I do think it's just a different way to think about the function of L&D if you're able to do both external. So thanks so much for sharing.
Absolutely. I hope people are inspired to at least try something, or at least find the areas that are in front of them to see if this is an opportunity for them.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to more conversations like this, and thanks for the time.
Thank you so much.